Best thing about Portishead?
I'm not sure about the best thing about Portishead.
I really like the accessible recycling centre.
The seafront and the Lido.
We have quite a few celebrities.
Gemma the weather person.
Eddie Large.
The guy that was in Coronation Street, I can't remember his name.
Mike Baldwin.
Johnny Briggs.
Eddie Large.
I'd say Fred Weatherly. Now you wrote Danny Boy.
Eddie Large.
We've been waiting for a skate park since 2000 and we still haven't got one.
I actually founded the Friends of Portby Wharf Nature Reserve.
All right, my babber.
Mark Steele's in town.
Thank you very much, lovely, kind people. Welcome to Mark Steele's in town, coming from beautiful Portishead. The delightful, quaint seaside town where it's impossible to resist jumping in the clear blue water. With delightful views on all sides, so you can't make your mind up which glorious scenery to take in first. The chemical plant producing white phosphorus, a road bridge, or whales. And if you enjoy the seaside, it is an excellent idea to dive in the water here because the current is so fast it'll sweep you straight down to Weston-super-Mare, which is much nicer. But Paul said I would still rather be here because Weston-super-Mare is full of itself. Who do they think they are, the pompous, stuck-up knobs calling themselves super? If you call yourself super, you should have something super about you, like you've won a Nobel Prize or something, not just we've got donkeys on the beach and Jeffrey Archer. And it's wonderful here because it's Portishead and definitely not Bristol. Now, several people have told me our location got into trouble because they had someone looking to move here and they called it the buzzing suburb of Bristol. And you're quite right to be annoyed because, of course, Portishead isn't buzzing. I was here on a Saturday night in the high street. The person I was with started talking to me and I honestly felt like going, shh. 9, they're trying to... To be fair, though, then we went in the Poacher pub, that I'm sure you know, and there were 3 teenagers sat there. It's honestly true. 3 teenagers sat there, and I thought, they're probably pushing it a bit, getting away with being in here, aren't they? And an older woman come in, and one of the lads shouted, "Here, can I have a stripper for me birthday?" And the older woman said, "Yeah, right then." And he went, "Thanks, Mum." But you're not Bristol, definitely not. That's the slogan here. We're not Bristol. We're nothing to do with Bristol because Bristol is only where you all work and go shopping and go to see shows and go if you want to be up after 7:30. I was walking along that bit past the boating lake by the beach there. And instead of the boring stuff you get on most beaches, like ice cream vans, there's a series of signs saying, "Danger, soft mud. Do not walk past the pebbles." And there was a woman, honestly, I had no idea who she was walking along, and she said, "Excuse me?" I said, "Yeah." She said, "There's a dead sheep over there. Go and have a look at it." And later on, I saw her at the Lido in the cafe, and she said, "Did you go and see the dead sheep?" As if it was a local landmark. I said, "I did, thank you." She said, "You're welcome." That's the first thing that anyone said to me when I got here. And I thought, this is going to be good, this one.
Mark, was the sheep dead?
It was dead. I'm not James Herriot, but it was doing a bloody good impression. Portishead, of course, isn't just an enthralling town, it is also a band that took its name from here, which you must be very proud of. A brilliant 90s band, Dummy, fantastic album. There must be millions of people who know the band, don't even realise it's a place. You know, like if there was a town near Bath called Ed Sheeran. According to Rolling Stone magazine, the band said, "We named it after our dreary hometown." And Jeff Barrow, who helped start the band, said, "I don't really like Portishead. It's a place you go to die." And I don't know why, he's never been asked to turn on the Christmas lights. And This is one of the reasons it's so attractive here. You're by the Bristol Channel and the pace of life's much slower than in the big city, and you'd like to do things so slowly that thousands of you spend every day in your cars travelling 3 inches in an hour in an endless traffic jam along the A3124. And has everyone been in the traffic jams? The 3124. I've got the right road, haven't I? What? The Portby 100. OK. Every day in your cars travelling 3 inches an hour in an endless traffic jam along the Portby 100. I'll tell you how it feels to get a round of applause just because you've managed to say the name of a road. And the problem is you haven't got a railway, because you did have two, but they were both shut down. And the last one in 1964, and there are promises that the railway line will be built in the next couple of years, but you can't rush these things. You can't expect to have a transport system half as modern as the one you already had 60 years ago. Just like that. So you crawl along every day, and this is how bored you get. Someone called Michael Dillaway wrote on Twitter, "I've just driven out of Portishead, and in a field gateway at 7 p.m, there's someone playing a drum set behind their car." Is that true? You all know the drummer. The traffic drummer. Someone replied, "It reminds me of the time I saw a saxophonist playing in the traffic jam." There was a BBC headline, "String Quartet performs for motorists in M5 traffic jam." Violinist Lou Jeffrey said their next venue could be the M6 or even the M25. This is a brilliant, brilliant advert for the town. The congestion makes you the most productive town in Britain. You can all learn instruments. You can get degrees in civil engineering, learn to speak Russian. Everyone in Portishead could have read Proust one chapter at a time before shuffling 10 yards towards the cab stand roundabout and carrying on. Something that did improve the traffic a few years ago, apparently, was that the traffic lights were removed. And this was the result of a big campaign, wasn't it? It was in many ways, it seems to me, your own civil rights movement. I have a dream. Being able to get from the cab stand roundabout to the M5 in less than 45 minutes. Hallelujah. And music festivals with protest singers in field gateways, singing "The lights go from red onto green, back to red, but none of us move more than if we were dead." Day after day I sit still in Portishead, but the times they are a-changing. Several people made films of the new system with no lights. Some of these are on YouTube. Now, obviously, you keep this in perspective, this issue, so the first comment from Portishead: "Freedom, proprietary justice. Nobody needs tons of regulations. Reduce them and let the people live." This is clearly the most exhilarating episode ever in Portishead. But there are other traffic issues, because this must be one of the only places in Britain where there's a road sign that warns, "Welcome to Portishead, low-flying owls." I don't know, the point about these road signs, what are you meant to do differently once you're warned of the owls? Imagine if that question came up in your driving test. Are you supposed to change down to second gear and throw dead mice out the window? The owls, it seems to me, are an example of how much life is on the edge here. You had 2 power stations here at one point, to go with the 2 railway stations until they were both demolished. It seems like the authorities have said, "We'll teach Portishead to have reasons to exist. Let's close everything there or blow it up." And there was a chemical plant called Albright and Wilson that produced phosphorus, and it boasted the phosphorus was highly flammable, most toxic of all the allotropes. Ooh. But the joy of this phosphorus is the warning sirens that would go off if the plant explodes. So the warning sirens have to be tested. So on the 3rd of every month at 3 p.m, and you'll be familiar with this, you hear this sound. Time you hear this, it must be terrifying, isn't it? Oh my God, oh my God, oh my God! Have the North Koreans missed Japan and hit Chepstow? Bristol Council has a leaflet and a website warning you what to do if the chemical plant explodes, and it says, Go in, close the doors and windows, and stay in. Well, thank God they give you that advice. Otherwise, you'd all go, oh, there's been an explosion at the phosphorus plant. Let's run towards the burning toxic globules. See how many we can catch. The trouble is, of course, if you all jumped in your cars and fled, like in these towns in Florida, when there's a hurricane, it just looked like a normal day. I noticed on location, they didn't say, one of the features that Donna and Peter can look forward to in this buzzing suburb of Bristol is the reason it buzzes is there's a chemical plant full of phosphorus. There was a discussion on Facebook about why estate agents in the area seem to forget to mention this detail to prospective buyers. And then someone called Craig wrote, oh, so you expect them to say, whilst Portishead is famed for its wonderful sunsets and easy access to the countryside, I feel duty-bound to warn you that due to the relative close proximity to several chemical plants, an aviation fuel storage site and a couple of power stations, there's an early warning system. But rest assured, on the third day of every month at 3 p.m, the test cycle of the early warning system will make you feel very comfortable. Anyway, it's £750,000 for a one-bed maisonette. The problem is, have you ever considered this? What if the plant blows up at 3 o'clock on the afternoon of the 3rd? There's plenty of reasons why families would want to move here. Every book and leaflet I've read on the area claims the water in Bristol Channel by Portishead boasts the second biggest tidal range in the world. And that makes up for everything shutting at 4:30, doesn't it? That makes the water here lethal, of course. You can't swim in it, the current's so fast. You see swans just battling their way past the rocks there, just by the marina. Keep going, keep going. Then they ran out of breath and just stopped for a moment and went woof all the way back. Maybe they do it on purpose. Whee! Back to Clevedon! And the tide rises so far, it means you'll be stuffed here if global warming carries on and the sea levels rise. So it makes sense that you're doing all you can to slow down carbon emissions, because that would be really stupid, wouldn't it? To have a line of cars every day idly pumping out exhaust fumes in never-ending traffic jams when this is the very place that's going to end up underwater if the sea levels rise. When the wind's in the right direction, you can hear people the other side of the channel shouting, get that bloody railway built, you're going to drown the lot of us. Someone sent me a message just today when they knew I was in Portishead, and it said, what I love about Portishead, on a good day you can't see Newport. And there's another potential rivalry, which is between the two bits of Portishead, because in the last few years, the population here has almost doubled with this massive new development by the marina. I've spoken to people very, very cross because that bit's got a Waitrose. Yeah, who do they think they are? This is Portishead. We're in the main venue in the town, and it's a hall above Iceland. When upstairs from Iceland is the heart of a town's cultural activity, who do you think you are with your shop selling your Earl Grey and your fresh broccoli, your waterside ponces? But this is how much it's changed the area. I know someone who was brought up in Portishead, and I sent them a photo of all the boats and yachts from the marina, and she rang me and said, no, you've got the wrong place, that's not Portishead. Where have you gone? So I sent another picture of me in front of a sign that says danger soft mud, and she went, yeah, that's it. The marina bit keeps getting bigger and bigger. It's even got bigger since I've been coming down here. But they suffer. I'm impressed that there's people from the marina here, because to get out of that estate is like the most intricately designed puzzle that anyone has ever come up with. If it was drawn for a kid's book, it'd go, Johnny's kite string has got tangled with 235 other kites. Can you follow the lines and help him get his kite back? Even a map doesn't help. You go, hang on, it says we've got to go through a woman's kitchen. Let's ask this bloke. How do I get out, mate? Don't ask me. I've lived here 9 years. I ain't got a clue. This is why the estate grows as quickly as it does. Every time someone goes in there, they can't get out. But one thing they have done in that estate, as much as the indigenous people of the old town, is starting up groups and societies. There's loads of them, millions of them. And it's just as well because they address the major issues here, such as what to do with the frogs. And I'd like to introduce Helen. And Helen is from the marina.
Yeah, village quarter.
This will be in the Bristol Post. When it goes. The radio recording took an unusual turn when by 9:30 the entire town was on fire. And you're a part of all sorts of societies, but in particular, frog-wise, you are part of the...
Portishead Toad Patrol.
The Toad Patrol. Should just clarify, Helen, do you deal with frogs as well, or do you
yes.
bollocks to them?
No. We do frogs and we do newts.
And what do you do with these toads, then?
Well, we pick them up and put them in a bucket.
Right.
We carry them to their breeding ponds, and many of them find their mate in the bucket.
That's nice.
And basically, we help them avoid getting run over by the traffic.
OK. So you collect them from the... You collect them from the road, then? They're all in
from the road, from the footpaths, underneath people's cars. And we've also made ladders for them to climb out of the drains.
Whole little toad city.
Oh, yes. For the last migration, we had over 1,000 toads, about 800 frogs.
Are you sure they're not all going, we were trying to get somewhere? Oh, here comes the bloody Toad Patrol. Quick, down a drain. Oh, they've got a fish in there and a ladder. Where are they going that they need rescuing?
Well, in February, they breed, so they're heading off to the pond.
Right.
But they all live in the housing estate for most of the year. In the village quarter.
Well, the prices are so expensive, but it's got its own ladder and it's very good for the schools. Thanks very much to Helen for Toad Patrol and other activities. And, see, it is cultured here. It is. For true culture, you only have to experience one of Britain's greatest shops, Morgan Wesley, the station. It's brilliant in there. I love that you all know it. It's better than Harrods and bigger. There's about 20 rooms in a stationer's. There's a whole room that you discover if you accidentally crawl underneath a door somewhere and down a little hole, and it's just full of jigsaws. And there are about 50 men working there who look like they'll all say to you, it's envelopes you want. You better come into the cellar. If you want to buy a pencil, we can have it delivered by a low-flying owl. How can it survive, this shop, on sales of jigsaws and pencils? It must be a front for international heroin smuggling. It's brilliant. One thing they do, any tickets for anything in Portishead have to be bought in Morgan Wesley's. I mean, you're probably used to it, but in other cities, it doesn't really work like that. Anything. Pantomimes, school productions, talks for bird-watching groups. When I was in there, someone came in and asked for tickets for The Lion King. And when they were getting the tickets, they said, is it the adult version of The Lion King? And the man went, no. And this one went, no, I was joking, there's not really an adult version. It's all about the young round here. Lucinda told me they had a mini referendum on putting in a skateboard park. Because local councillors didn't want the genteel lake grounds spoilt. And you could see their point because there was already plenty here for teenagers to do. They can spend the school holidays being beware of mud and in the evenings wonder what it must be like if there was any way to get to Bristol. They're spoilt for choice. If you chuck in a skateboard park, you might as well live in the rough bit of Libya. And there were marches. There's been marches and protests in favour of the skateboard park. And has anybody here been on any of the protests? Oh, loads of you. There was a referendum here, which went 2,453 in favour of the skateboard park, 271 against. Was it? Did you stay up all night with Dimbleby going, here's the exit poll. We're predicting 90% in favour of the skateboard park. OK, we can go over to the counter at Redcliffe Bay Hall. What are the scenes over there on this dramatic night? Well, there's no one here. It's gone 9 o'clock. So, is it happening now, the skateboard park? Still no sign of it. After that massive landslide. Is it a race between the skateboard park and the railway? Oh, I mean, what are the reasons for not putting it there then, when everybody wants one? I can't. Why do they say we don't want it? What is this? Is this?
Because they live nearby.
Well, even if you live nearby, that's not that bad to have a skateboard park, is it?
What that sort of person?
What, the sort of person who skateboards? Because most people who skateboard end up in ISIS. What? No logic at all. There's a poet called Tim Clare who wrote a poem called In Portishead, all about the town. One bit goes, in Portishead, 'tis news when someone's bought a shed. The flare goes up, the minions scatter, fetch the mayor, throw a regatta. Come to where the right wing prosper, fewest gypsies south of Gloucester, boast the brochure's glossy pages, Tories haven't lost in ages. Isn't that lovely? It's a town at ease with itself, clearly. It is full of culture. Eddie Large lives here in Portishead, bless him. Johnny Briggs, who played Mike Baldwin in Coronation Street, lives here. And look who you managed to get to turn on your Christmas lights in 2009. Do people know? Nigel from Homebase. Nigel from Homebase got more votes as the person you wanted to turn on the Christmas lights than Johnny Depp. Johnny Depp had been seen in the area and you voted for Nigel from Homebase over him, which is marvellous. And the Daily Mail reported, a shop assistant in Homebase in Portishead draws a 3,000 crowd. He's become a local celebrity because of his cheerful demeanour and helpful attitude. That's so brilliant that you recognise that as truly valuable. It does also say something about the rest of you. That if someone's a bit cheerful and helpful, you go, well, I've never come across this before. If you'd asked anyone else young to turn the lights on, they'd have gone, only if you get me a stripper. If you'd asked someone from Morgan and Wesley's, they'd go, now where's the switch gone? I'll go through to the other room, it might be in there. Oh, blimey, it appears to be Easter. Do people know who Fred Weatherly was? Yeah. Fred Weatherly was from here, and he wrote Danny Boy. And the original lyrics to Danny Boy were very much more Portishead. They went, oh, Danny Boy, the sirens, they are calling. And this is true. He wrote the song in a gateway while stuck in a traffic jam on the road. But does everyone... Do you all go to the lake and the Lido? Yeah. These are your treasures. So much so that according to Posset Pieces, Posset is the local word for Portishead, when the lake was first built, the chairman of the Lake Committee on the council was asked on television, what does the lake do for Portishead? And he replied, it's a lake and you can sit on a boat. And the Lido is glorious, all Art Deco and magical colours and beautiful warm water that you must look at and think, blue? How do they make water that colour? And you really look after it. I've been there 3 times to the Lido, and on each occasion there's not been a single person in the water. Because you don't want to damage water by splashing about and swimming in it. The Vintage Community Church make good use of it. They hire it out for baptism ceremonies. And to be fair, in Portishead, dunking people underwater in an Art Deco Lido as a means of them accepting the Lord is one of the less peculiar ceremonies. Now, it nearly went bankrupt, didn't it, the Lido? a few years ago, and it had to be saved by a combination of local volunteers and what must seem a very strange turn of events, a group of Americans. And now, at this point, I'll introduce Barbara, who is from the Lido.
Hello, Mark.
Hello, Barbara. And now, so that's about right, is it? It was all going to fold up, be turned into flats or whatever?
Yeah, it was really under threat, but the people of Portishead weren't having any of that, so they had a march through the town.
Of course you did. Of course you did. Because what else are you going to do? Cars are useless. There's nowhere to take a skateboard. You have to march.
Yeah, they stopped the traffic, definitely. It was amazing, actually, and we've gone from strength to strength, and it's been really amazing. Get up to 40,000 people in every season.
When the Americans hear that siren, they'll think, oh no, Trump's done it.
Yeah.
Thanks very much, Barbara. Thank you. So it's a brilliant mix here in Portishead. On the one hand, so sedate that you're all asleep by 7 and complain if someone thinks you buzz, but in another way, you're on the edge with your deadly mud and lethal currents and wailing sirens and a surreal swimming pool, like some apocalyptic vision in a Mad Max film here. And it's why there's a new Portishead track that features the gentle, soothing features of the town mixed with their old trip-hop sounds. And we've got a preview of the track. Ambient siren trip hop. It must be so soothing here, I reckon, within sight of all kinds of industrial activity in the middle distance, wind turbines, tons of mud swirling in all directions, the Severn Bridge taking millions of people in and out of Wales, and with your sea and your industry and bridge and countryside and mud, Portishead's like a brilliant cocktail that shouldn't work but sort of somehow does, like when someone says, try this, it's tequila, grapefruit, cornflakes, WD-40 and a widgety grub. And you know what, it seems to work for some strange reason. And San Francisco and Rio de Janeiro may have their charms, but they haven't got a band named after them, have they? And you're your own place. Of course you're not Bristol. Their shipyard was the centre of the slave trade. Your marina contains a lock that people watch go up and down for 6 hours. Because that's all there is to do. And they have to buy a ticket for that from the station. So I will leave you, Portishead. Thank you very much for being absolutely lovely. And I'll leave you with the words of First World War poet Rupert Brooke in his poem that many believe was inspired by his time in Portishead. And thanks very much. I'll leave you with this. The wait for the railway, over by Christmas, they said, but it's quicker to paddle to Wales. It's beautiful here, but I envy the quickness of runaway toads and of low-flying owls. Water dark brown and mud full of danger, 1 yard at a time shall I reach for my pistol. Kept going by drumming that hails from a stranger, but at least we're not up late and buzzing like Bristol.
Mark Steele's In Town was written and performed by Mark Steele.
With additional material by Pete Sinclair.
It was produced in Portishead by Carl Cooper.
It was a BBC Studios production.
Thank you very, very much, everyone.